Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be introducing AI agent automation with n8n and also guide you through on how to build your very first AI workflow. And you know the good thing, it's no code tool. So anything no code tool counts me in, and even no code tool for even building AI agents, even better, counts me in. So first off, AI agent has really been changing the game for automation. But did you know that you can actually build your own powerful AI agent workflow automation with no code tools like n8n? And in this video, I would walk you through on how to actually set up your very first AI agent workflow using n8n and also using OpenAI API. So by the end of this video, you should have a fully functional AI workflow that can actually fetch information using OpenAI API and also extract this data and feed it into a Google Sheet for different countries. Let's get started, guys. So what is n8n, you may ask? n8n is nothing but an open source automation tools that actually help you build powerful workflows, right, without writing code entirely. So I want to think of it as a no-code version tool like Zapier or Make.com, but with even more flexibility when it comes to customization options, right? You can bring in different nodes, also connect different APIs as well too. And the best part is the fact that it is perfect for integrating AI agents into your workflow. And some key features, as you can see, are like the drag and drop interface for building workflows, and also built-in integrations as well too with popular services like OpenAI, Google Sheets. I love that, and also Slack as well. And it's also completely open source, and it's also self-hostable on your own personal laptop, meaning you actually have more control over your data. I'm actually looking at my screen right now because I want us to even go about setting up our n8n to start with. All right, so let's get started by setting up n8n. And you can actually run n8n either locally or on the cloud. But for simplicity's sake, we would use the cloud version locally and we'll self-host n8n. And I'm going to just share my screen just to get started with this. So first off, we are going to, I wouldn't exactly actually install it on my system, but rather I would show you the link you can use on n8n. And I think it's really self-explanatory on how you can actually get started. So yes, get started, guys. First off, we're going to go to the n8n documentation, and as you can see, we have the installation processes in here, and we're going to go through pretty much follow this. So if you're using your Mac, just open your terminal and run this code. No, we're going to run it using npm rather. So just use npm install n8n-g, and you can either decide to use a specific version if you want to. And that's pretty much it. Literally, it takes it's so simple, less than a minute to actually done installing n8n to your local computer. Then you can either use this or use this after installing. I pretty much would use n8n, and when I do this, it opens. So let me just show you how I actually do that on my personal computer, guys. So this is just process for installing it on your local computer. Then I'll then show you how to actually just get started and how to use n8n to build different workflows for the purpose of this video. Let's get in. So we're going to get started, but before I get started, I always like giving an overview as to what we are trying to create. And here I have Lucy Chat to just help us really guide us as to what the eventual outcome should look like. So first off, I want to have more like a schedule trigger. So I'm just going to use this as a template for the purpose of this. And the whole purpose of this schedule trigger in here is for me to be able to set a timing as to when I want it to eventually populate the records. So I'll just stretch this out a bit and just call this schedule. I'm not sure why they actually left out. Okay, then afterwards this would connect to a field that will help me format how I want the response to come in, right? And it's gonna be a node, and in n8n it's something called edit field. So just a moment. So let me just bring this just a little. So this is called edit field, and then afterwards I'm going to then feed it with OpenAI. So like I earlier said, if you do not have OpenAI credits, I highly encourage that you do. Then afterwards, what we'll then do is we're then going to use an edit field as well to because we also need to format it eventually, right, before we feed it to our Excel sheet or whatever spreadsheet you want to use. So this is my edit field here, and then afterwards we then connect it to another node, and that would be more like another integration, which is pretty much our spreadsheet. So in all entirety, this is really how the format is going to look like, and from start to finish, this is the flow that we're looking to create the automation process. And this schedule trigger can be done using a cron job. The edit field is really just to format how we want the text to how we want to prompt OpenAI to actually generate text for us. OpenAI does its magic, and then we edit the field, because when it comes in different ways, right? You can see it as a table, you can see it as a schema, you can see it as a JSON format. Then edit field will help us format it based on our preference, and afterwards we'll then upload it to our spreadsheet. In this context, I'll be using Google Sheet for the purpose of this, so you'd also have to have a Google account. And I believe most of us should have a Google account, because in there you can select the spreadsheet you want to use, how you want it to be automated, as well as also putting your credentials as well to in n8n. So this is just a simple diagram. Let's get back in and let's start building our workflow automation. Earlier mentioned, we've already seen how a typical, like what the diagram would be like, right? So now we're going to start by bringing in the very first workflow, which we already mentioned that we actually do want it to be scheduled, and we're going to put a time frame as to how we want the schedule to come in. And what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to pretty much include an add first step. As you can see, this is a blank canvas, so there's a lot of things that you can explore using this as well. I'm going to click this, and when you click this, you see different triggers that you can have at each step of the way. You can go through trigger manually on app events, different things pretty much, whether you want to connect to Asana, AWS Lambda, quite a number of things, AWS Transcribe. I think it's just so, like, the options are a lot, and this one tool that really excites me when I come to build certain workflows, right? But for the purpose of this, I really just want to start by, like I earlier mentioned, I want us to be able to like schedule a trigger, and I'm going to use schedule trigger, which is this here. And this schedule trigger tells you like the interval, and you can also determine it based on a cron job as well, like a cron expression. And for this, instead of using trigger interval, you have your seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months. You can actually use seconds, right? But in this case, I'm going to use I want to just like go further and just use like a custom cron job. And for the purpose of this, I'm going to specify it to run at every 3 minutes. I think every 3 minutes is too. Okay, I'm going to try at every 3 minutes, at every hour, every day of the month, and every month in every day of the week, right? So it may sound like a mouthful, but what this means is, like I said, every 3 minutes. You can use cron job. So there's a website called cron job that helps you simplify the whole process as well, in terms of understanding what the expression is like. I believe it's this, yes. So you can use this to see how it's going to look like. For example, if I specify that I want this to be, so this will be this is for the hours and this is for the minutes, right? So I pretty much said that I want it to run every 3 minutes. So as you can see here, at every 3 minutes, this is how the cron job is. I can just copy here, Ctrl C, and go in here and paste this, right? And I'll just always advise that every single step you actually take an action, it's just important that you always test it. So you can just click test and just tells you that, oh, it's going to run, this is the timestamp, this readable date, the day of the week, the year, blah 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 blah, and so on and so forth, and the day of the month as well. So it just really like breaks it down for you, which I think is really good about this tool. As you can see, it's not hard. Was it hard? No, it wasn't hard, trust me. You can also see it in different formats as well too, either chasing formats, as a schema as well too. So these are like different options, like I earlier stated in the previous video, that I can see that as a table format, as a JSON. But however, you always, or rather I would encourage that you would always test the step just so that it's aligned as to how you'd want it to be. Then next off, we're now going to go on to eventually include the edit note, right? So like I stated, the edit note is really just helping us to more like specify what we want the field to do. right? Or what we want to prompt our OpenAI to eventually do. So we're going to include the node here, and I believe it's called suite here, so that's edit field in here. And what I pretty much want to do is I want it to really fetch data of a new country, like I earlier stated, right? So I'm going to change something here. And by the way, one thing you'll notice is the fact that you have the previous note output in here as an input. So as you can see inputs here, this is based on the output from the schedule trigger. So what I'm going to do right now is we have the manual mapping, and we're going to add the field. The field we want is, yes, a name, a string technically, and the value we actually want for it to do is we want it to fetch data for a new country. So I want it to fetch data for a new country, and as I always say, I would just always advise that we always test every code at each step of the way. So let's see. Okay, great. So the output shows a green check, so I think we are looking good, right? So let's go on. Okay, so the next step, it works well, so we're good. We're seeing this showing a green check mark, as also this showing a green check mark. Then the next one is for us to include our OpenAI, right? Like I said, if you do not have OpenAI credits, I would advise you to do, and there's a whole lot of process to even set up and to get OpenAI ready and all those things, right? But for the purpose of this, we are going to create an use an OpenAI here, and what we're trying to do is we're going to use a model for the purpose of this, because we're already feeding it with a prompt from this edit field, right? So we just want to message the model to do something for us. So I'm going to click this here. I've already set my credentials already, so I would highly encourage that you do that. Then the resource, will just leave it as text. Message a model was the operation we chose, and then what kind of model do you want? For me, there's just a lot of, like, just imagine, I think GPT is just really like evolving, but I'll just stick with the GPT-4o mini for the purpose of this. And for the text, it's a long line of text, and I'm just going to show you what the prompt is in here. So my prompt here is really just to educate people about like different countries' culture, but for the purpose of this, I'll be using Nigeria, right? And I already have the format already, so what I'll do here is I'll just copy Ctrl A and Ctrl C and just paste it in here, because that's what I'm going to feed my AI model to do for me. And then I'll paste this here. Let me see if I have, okay, let me put expression. Okay, already pasted, which is good. So also in terms of the role will be a user. So as you can see here, the role is in shaping the model's response. It tells the model how it should behave and interact with the user. Also, yes, I don't mind it simplifying the output for me. I think that will be very good. And I want the output to come out as a JSON format. Remember, this is the input from the different field. And like I mentioned, you have the schema, you have the table, you have the JSON format. For me, I want to come in as a JSON format because it will be simple for me to eventually have that linked to, or to eventually feed it into my spreadsheet. So I'll just output content as JSON. You can tweak other things here, but for the purpose of this, I think one thing I also want to include is the randomness as well to write. I want it to have a certain temperature, and I'll just, I think this is a bit not preferable for what I want, so I'll just choose 0.7. In between 0.5 to 0.7 is actually good, but for the purpose of this, I'll just use 0.7. And like I would always say, test your step. Test it and be sure it works. So let's test and see. Okay, so it works. What I really want here, I want the country, the category, the tags, as well as also the title, the description, and the story. Every other thing here can be null, but these are the fields I'll be feeding into my spreadsheet: the story, the description, the title, the tags, the country, the category as well as also the country. So we're good. We have a green check mark here, and we can see that it also comes in as a table format as well too. The message is here as a table format. The schema as well too is like this, which is pretty good. So we are good to go. So we've made sure this is working. And guys, can you see how seamless it is? It's not hard. Like it is really not hard. So now the next thing I want to do is, because I really want this format to be in JSON when I'm feeding into my spreadsheet, would need the same node we used in previous one, which is the edit field, for the purpose of this, to help us bring in each of the message that came in as a JSON format. So like the values with the values of the associated ID, we're going to bring it into this edit field. Just watch and I'll explain what it means, right? So we're going to bring it here for the item field. So what we're going to do in here, as we can see, is that we have the output of OpenAI serving as an input for this particular edit field, which is pretty good. So what we're going to do, yes, we're going to allow manual mapping. Okay, there are different options. Manual mapping, there's JSON format, but I want to watch and see what we're going to do, and the manual mapping we're going to use, because it's us just really dragging and dropping, nothing more than that. Like, we're just dragging and we're dropping. That's just like, that's as easy as it can get, guys. Like, I think this is one of the best thing that can ever happen to anybody. And then you can see different formats: string, number, boolean, array, object. But for most parts, because we know it's a string, I mean, country, the value is a string, category, the value is a string, tags a string, so everything will be a string, right? So I'm going to drop this here, and can you see it says it just mapped some data, right? That is pretty good. And now we mapped the ID, country, and the result, which is the value, is actually Nigeria, as you can see here. Then the next step is we're going to add another field here, and the next field we're going to add here is the field called category. The other field we're going to map in here is tags as well too. Yeah, so the tag seems to be giving it to us as an array, but we're fine with it, no worries. Then we have the other field here, which is called the title. The next field we have here is called the description. Okay, then the next field we then have here is called the story, right? And story just gives us more like an elaborate content, or an elaborate information about the description itself, as well as also the title. So let's just try and test this up. I'm not sure if there's anything I need to do for this, but I think we're all good. Let's try and test and see what we have here. Okay, pretty much yes. So we really just wanted to return an item in here as the sum, blah 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 blah, sets, yada yada yada. So afterwards, we're now going to go and connect our spreadsheet, right? And we're going to use Google Sheet for the purpose of this. So let's connect our Google Sheet here. So just type in Google Sheets, that's it here. And the Google Sheet operation I would want to do here is, I actually would want to append a row here. And here we're going to set up our Google Sheets account. So click here, and as we can see, we are seeing also the output of the previous edit field showing up in here as an input for the Google Sheet. Okay, then sheet within a sheet, we're going to for the purpose of this, you can either use a document within a sheet or an actual document itself. But for my own for this video, I'm going to use sheet within a sheet for the purpose of this, and choose append the role. And here you're meant to see different lists, so I need to fix my credentials. And I would also encourage that you also have like your Google Sheet APIs ready as well too, as well as also the ID of your spreadsheet. So I'm going to show you I'm going to show you how to actually integrate this in your workflow. So I'll try and fix these credentials, and then we go along. So we are currently here And what we're going to do next is we actually want to append a role within a sheet. I have a Google Sheet that is already open, and I called it n8n test. And in here we have the URL. We also have a sheet name right here. So when you say sheet within the sheet, what this means is that it's going to specify this sheet. I don't know if you can see my arrow here, but this Nigeria is a sheet within the n8n test document. So that's why it's called sheet within a sheet, right? And my operation pretty much is to append a row, right? Meaning putting a new row at every instance. So you can either access your documents via a list, a URL, or an ID. But I think for me, or even generally, just simply use a URL pretty much, right? And let me just try and get, so that's this here. The URL is this, and we're gonna have this here, and then we're gonna also have the name, or rather the URL, no, sorry, not the name, rather, sorry, from the list rather. So that is Nigeria. So that's what we have here. So it says no columns found in Google Sheets, right? Which is actually true, because if I even open it here, as you can see there's really no new column. Like there's no column that should map the header. But I know the first thing within here is we have country category tags. Let me just quickly fill that in. We have country, we have category, right? We have tags, we have title, description, and story. So that is title, description, and we also have story. Okay, so now that we have this, let's see, we can try and refresh this to see the updated field. So let's refresh. Great, so we can see the updated field here, guys. Like, tell me, are you not fascinated? Like, see how it's just so seamless. I see how my voice just like showed a lot of excitement, because it's really it's seamless, honestly, and you don't have to code. So I'm just going to drop in my country here. So the country ID with the value of Nigeria, you'll see what would happen. Then the category, which is this, the tags as well too, which is this, which is shown as an array. Then we have the title, the description, as well as also the story. Now let's look at the magic. Like I'd always say, not really magic per se, but I mean, they say technology is magic, right? But let's just test it. Let's test this, guys. Let's test it. So we're gonna test it right now, and we have it. Are you seeing the outputs? See the JSON format here. See the schema. Now we are seeing a green check mark, right? So it means that it's actually successfully run. It also shows here that it's successfully run. So I want to believe that it's also showing. Great. Can you see? Can you see, guys? Like literally, can you see how it's automated the process for us? So when I say, if you haven't really started building automated workflows using n8n, or just like generally with any other tool, you should, because can you see how this was done seamlessly? And what I would do is we're going to come back like in maybe about, just show like what the outcome was eventually after about maybe like 30 minutes or less than 30 minutes, because remember, we are automating this thing based off of every 3 minutes of the day. So every single 3 minutes there should be a new update, right? But to actually get this to run, I'm going to turn this on. Let me first of all save this, okay? And I'm going to get this active. So what this means is that my schedule trigger will now trigger executions on the schedule I have defined. And in this instance, I've defined it for every 3 minutes, okay? And these executions will not show up immediately in the editor, but you'd see them in the execution list if you choose to save the execution, right? If you choose to save the execution. So I'm going to click got it. And now that it's on, we're going to come back in like few minutes or few minutes, right? And just see what it eventually populated for us seamlessly. This is how we've built our very first workflow. So this is about, I think 12 minutes or 9 minutes after. And these are the other records it has populated on our sheets. automatically, right? And really has helped us to format it really seamlessly as well too, right? I mean, eventually you should always like look at ways to optimize the prompts. I think that's also even another topic on its own entirely, but just to show you how you can automate certain workflows using n8n for you, right? And one thing you would notice is you can also see the execution. Remember, it was triggered or scheduled to be triggered every 3 minutes, right? So you can check it in here called executions and get to see that, oh, this is the times it ran. It ran at 2026, 2030, 2033, 2036. And what are you seeing here? At every interval is what? 3 minutes. It succeeded. And this is good because you can also, it also helps you debug if it eventually fails. For example, here you can see an error, right? So this shows one instance where it actually did fail, but that was like when I was setting it up earlier. But now that everything was able to be triggered accurately and in a very good manner, you can see that we have even the number of seconds that it took to actually run. And here it took about 3.395 seconds. Here it took a shorter time of about 3.213 seconds. And here we see about 3.326 seconds as well to write. In another 3 minutes, that's about 2039, we should see another new execution pop up here. But this is just how you can see. So as you can see here, it's actually running and it succeeded. So I want to see another extra record, which is this. So guys, this is how you can automate your workflow. It is seamless, it is easy, and it is pretty much as simple as ABC. So now let's bring all this together, right? So with n8n, you can actually replicate some of the most effective workflows that is being used by big tech right now. For example, you can automate your social media analytics by pulling data from multiple platforms and visualizing it in one place. Also, you can use AI-powered tools to summarize reports and also send key insights to your team members automatically. Then you can also even build an alert system for your business that monitors APIs, log data, and also send notifications if something goes wrong. Now, with all these things I've mentioned, one thing you can tell is that the possibilities are literally endless. And with n8n low code / no code interface, literally a drag and drop, you don't need to be an engineer pretty much to actually build these workflows, okay? So there you have it, the hidden workflows of big tech and how you can actually bring them into your own processes with tools like n8n. The future of automation isn't reserved for tech giants. It's not. It's actually accessible, it is scalable, and it's also ready for you to implement. So what are you waiting for? If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more insights on AI and automation, and let me know in the comment section, which workflow would you be excited or are you excited to build next? Until next time, keep automating and innovating. Bye guys, and see you in my next video.